in terms of the functioning of the federal government.
Privatizing, though, was not mandatory, that it would just be an option. At least that's how it was when President Bush brought it up.
No, the privatizing of Medicare that they embrace would not be optional. Well, yes, but what do we do with somebody who takes that option and loses all their money? Do we say you're out of luck and you're busted the rest of your life and you've got no income? Does that mean you then qualify for food stamps and welfare? And are we then taking care of you because you've made bad choices? I mean, I think that's the problem that they don't think through. There is a consequence to taking the security out of the phrase Social Security, and that's why most Missourians reject it.
Do you plan on making any joint appearances with President Obama this year?
I certainly have invited him. I would love him to come to Missouri and campaign. The Vice President will be in Missouri campaigning with me a week from today. So I am not afraid to say I support the President. I think he is a much better than Mitt Romney, who, by the way, is the father of the insurance mandate in this country. It was Romney who put the first insurance mandate in place in Massachusetts. And he also represents the economic policies that put us in this hole in the first place. So I'm not sure how we can go forward by going back. On the other hand, if the President were here, he would tell you that I can be a real pain in the you-know-what. Because there are many times, whether it's Keystone, I've said, I support Keystone, Mr. President, you're wrong. Cap and trade, I've said, you know what, I oppose cap and trade, Mr. President, you're wrong. Some of the regulations his administration has proposed, I've said, you know what, goes too far. I'm not for that. So I am not afraid to stand up to my party, whether it's fighting earmarks, standing up to the President, whether it's on Keystone, or standing up to anyone if I think it's the right thing to do for Missouri.
Are you still insisting that we have a budget, even though no budget has come before the Senate in 3 years?
It's not true. In fact, it's interesting to me that the Republicans all voted along the law, under the law. We passed a budget under the law last August in the Budget Control Act. The Republicans are this is a political talking point, but we actually passed a budget, and you can see it, it's in the law, you can read it. They must not have read it, because they all voted for it last August, and it was 2 years of budgets, spending caps in every part of the government, and in fact, it is not like the budget resolutions we passed in previous years that are just recommendations that were always ignored by the appropriators. This we passed into law, and it was signed into law by the President. They want to deny that happened, and it's really interesting to me because they all voted for it, so it must mean they didn't read it.
But how come no one else in your party is saying that?
We are all saying it. We're all saying that. The chairman of the Budget Committee is saying it. All you have to do is look at the evidence of the bill. If you read the bill, you see the limits that are put in every department of government for 2 years. And it wasn't it wasn't a resolution that's under the Budget Control Act. It was a law that we passed in connection with raising the debt ceiling. And we did that so the appropriators couldn't drive around it like they usually do and spend more. So it's worked even better than the budget resolution that they're all spending all their time talking about on Fox News.
Sir, would you like to sign up for volunteer? No. No?
I'm a writer, not a volunteer.
Oh, who do you write for?
Turner Report.
Turner? Is that, where's that?
No, I mean there isn't. That is the
Joplin.
part of the law that the Supreme Court
Check
held
it out.
Was unconstitutional. So Missouri does not have
you're
to
not gonna
expand
knock on any doors
its
or
Medicaid
anything for us?
population, but it
Nope.
won't get any additional funds from the federal government
What about phone banks?
for
Nope.
that expansion. So they
I
will still
hang
get
up when
federal
people call
funds
me.
for the very limited Medicaid program Missouri currently has.
I
They
do.
won't be,
It's usually the
and frankly, which
Republicans,
is unbelievable to me,
You hang
since
up
the
on them
federal
too?
government will
Oh, yeah,
be
I'm
paying
equal
the entire
opportunity.
ticket
All right.
for the first 3 years and will always pay at least 90% of that expansion, that they would deny so many Missourians that coverage because they're trying to make a
Also,
political
right,
point.
I think
Seems
cost.
backward to me.
What are your thoughts on the Supreme Court's ruling on health care?
The most conservative Chief Justice that we have had on the court in many decades upheld the law. And now I want people to focus on what the law is rather than what they're being told it is. There are so many distortions and lies being told about this legislation right now. It's given me
talking about
not going to change anything if you have insurance at work.
that are being made to
It will allow you to go shop private insurance companies for insurance coverage if you don't have insurance now. And that
Now,
pooling of the risk with so many people
You're
will bring
working
down the
for
insurance rates.
the Democratic
And
Party.
we're going to get
You're
so
not
many
a
more
lawyer.
healthy people in the pool, it will
That's that.
stabilize
I've got some
everyone's
reading
rates.
for you there.
This is the dirty little secret that Republicans don't like to talk about.
No,
We
it's
have
not.
mandated insurance coverage now. It's called the emergency room. If someone decides, even if they can afford insurance, they'd rather buy a new car and they wreck that car and they show up at the emergency room, you know what happens? We take care of them. and we pay the bills. I have never seen the Republican Party so in favor of helping freeloaders in my life, because that's what this is about. It's about people who can't afford and won't buy. And if you can't afford and won't buy, why should we all have to pay the bill when you show up at the emergency room? That's all this is. And so if you buy the insurance, just like you have to buy car insurance, there's no additional penalty. In fact, you're going to get some help from the government with tax credits if that insurance premium is higher than 9% of your income. So I think if people will just give it a chance, they're going to be shocked how straightforward, simple, and fair it is.
I was just going to say, what do you think about the turnout? And
It's great. We've got a place where people can come and sign up to knock on doors and make phone calls. I'm glad we've opened an office down here this early. I think it sends a signal to the people in this part of Missouri that we are not going to leave any stone unturned. And I got to tell you, I'm not naive. I honestly am not expecting to win Jasper County on the first Tuesday in November. But I want to get every vote I can, and I feel an obligation to campaign everywhere, even if there's a lot of people who are going to reject my view of government. I still feel an obligation to campaign there. He clearly has not spent much time in the United States Senate. We've got plenty of people. Jim DeMint thinks he's leading. Rand Paul thinks he's leading. Mike Lee thinks he's leading. And what they're doing is shutting the place down. They vote no on the highway bill. They vote no on the farm bill. They use every procedure they possibly can to block basic legislation that has never before been controversial. These people have a different agenda. It is not about finding the middle ground and compromise. It's about shutting down the federal government for all intents and purposes. Do I think we should spend less? Yes. Do I think we should regulate? Yes, I do. But do I think we need to shut down the federal? Absolutely not. All I have to do is look around Joplin and see how valuable those federal programs were when they were needed. Everyone looks down their nose at the SBA or FEMA or CDBG until you have a community that really needs it. And then it's there, and it worked, and it helped. And I'm proud of that. I don't want that shut down. All three of these candidates want to shut down those agencies. And that's not fair, because I don't think I've ever heard them say they want to shut down FEMA. But most of it they do. They just want to shut it down. So if he says that the Senate doesn't need compromise, he clearly has no idea what he's talking about. We need compromise. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.